Good morning, afternoon, whatever time of day it is. Welcome to Oklahoma History Coronavirus Edition. I hope you are all doing well, and I miss having you guys in class, but we are going to continue on with our learning of Oklahoma history. So, where we had stopped before spring break is we were at Reconstruction and newcomers. And we saw that Oklahoma had begun to rebuild itself and become a power industry for the United States. And with that is going to bring in a lot of new people. And so with those new people, there's going to be changes. And so we're going to look at these changes here in Oklahoma. So we're going to look at opening up Indian Territory. So what's going to happen is a man by the name of Elias C. Boudinot is going to have a very powerful say in what's happening. So we're going to see that during this time of people coming in, there's going to be a lot of pressure. And so this pressure is going to involve the unassigned land, specifically in Indian Territory, where the Native Americans weren't living and the government really weren't using it. And so we're going to see that the pressure is going to come from the white settlers. And so we're going to see that this is going to be a growing concern for the Native Americans. However, Elias C. Boudinot, he is going to have a powerful say in how everything happens because he believes that if Indian Territory is opened up for whites to move in and start living, that it would be best for the Native Americans' economy. His thought process was that if more whites came in, they would be able to make more money, they would be able to sell more product, they would bring in a lot more power, and that would assist the Native Americans in becoming powerful and becoming a renowned group in the United States rather than being seen as these half citizens that everyone's been seeing them as. So we're going to see that these boomers are going to start putting this pressure and that some Native Americans are going to believe that it's okay. Some are going to be against it. And so we're going to look at this a little bit. So when we look at these boomers, they are going to primarily be led by a man by the name of Dr. Morris Munford. So Munford is originally going to create the term boomer, and it is going to describe the people that are going to establish the settlement movement for Indian Territory. This idea of all these people moving into this land that originally was set aside for the Native Americans. So we're going to see that boomers were those who took part in the land booms. Okay, that's where we see it. Okay, the land booms of the late 1800s when Western land was open to settlement. This is this time where the government is going to allow individuals to come in on their own terms. Okay. However, that's not going to be especially the case, but we're going to see that they're going to try to start bringing in civilized people to start pushing for Oklahoma or Indian Territory to become a state. And so we're going to see that these boomers are going to be pushing the government to allowing them to settle on these lands. And so what we're going to see is that the most famous boomer is going to be a man by the name of David L. Payne. Now, not the meteorologist that we see on the news, but another David Payne. So David Payne, this lovely gentleman right here with this amazing mustache, he is going to be the one that really is going to make this boomer movement popular in Indian Territory. For good and for bad. Okay? The good thing is that he's going to lead waves of settlers, of white settlers, to grab some of the best lands here in Indian Territory. They are going to come in, they're going to take up the best land, and they're going to start creating towns, saloons, shops, whatever it is. Their goal is to get the best land so they can profit from it. However, that is only good for those that are white. If you're a Native American, it's gonna be problematic. Okay, we're gonna see that David Payne is going to use harsh tactics to claim lands from Native Americans. He is going to use scare tactics. Okay, we've talked about this before, and we'll see this won't be the last time that this takes place in Oklahoma, but he's going to use violence, use weapons, going to use murder to scare the Native Americans into leaving them alone, allowing them to take their lands from them, to take the best lands for the benefit of the white people. And so we're going to see that David Payne is going to be a popular name for those that are white and a really discouraging, scary name for those that are Native Americans. So we're going to see that the boomers are going to be putting pressure on the Native Americans to allow them to take their lands. And so with that, we come into this other idea, okay? These people that are putting pressure, but we're also going to have people that think that they can figure out a way to get the best lands without the government's help. And those people are going to be called Sooners. So Sooners is a person who crossed the starting line of a land run before the appointed time. Okay, this person, they're going to find a back way into this appointed land, and they're going to find the best land and claim it for themselves before everyone else is allowed to. And so we're going to see that Sooners are going to become a problem for land openings for the Native Americans. Not only are they going to be gaining pressure from the boomers, but these individual Sooners and sometimes groups of Sooners are going to cause a lot of trouble. So Native Americans aren't receiving any help. The government isn't helping them prevent the boomers from coming in. They're not preventing the Sooners from coming in. They're really allowing this. And so we're seeing that these groups of individuals are coming in and taking away from the Native Americans. Okay, they're pushing them around. They're taking from them again. Like we saw a long time ago before spring break, is that time and time again, the United States has pushed and pushed and pushed the Native Americans around. And this is going to be another time where the government could have prevented Sooners and boomers from coming in, but they're not. They're actually going to, in a sense, almost support it. And so we're going to see that during this time, these boomers and Sooners are moving into the state. Congress is going to be causing even more trouble for Native Americans. So what they're going to do is they're going to pass something called the Dawes Severalty Act in 1887. So this was created by Senator Dawes, and his goal was to try to bring about ways for white Americans to come and gain access to good land in Indian territory. Okay, we see this for sale sign, Indian land for sale. Get a home of your own, easy payments. Okay, that's what he's pushing for. He's pushing for this idea of let's civilize this land. Let's make it a state with people in it, with white civilized people, not for the Native Americans. And so we're going to see that this is really going to be some of the first pressure on land runs or opening up Indian territory. And so with this, the Dawes Act is really going to create three parts for Indian territory. So the first thing is that it's going to dissolve tribal ownership of land. You might say, why is that important? It's important because they're saying that the land is not the tribes anymore. It is owned by the government. Whatever was left of tribal land or Native American land has now been completely taken away from them. So, again, the government's going to push around the Native Americans. We see the second thing that's going to happen is that they're going to give, or they gave, specific amounts of land to each individual Indian. Instead of the tribe having hundreds of acres, they're going to take away most of it and give half an acre or a quarter acre or maybe a full acre to a single Native American or to a single family. And so this is going to cause them to lose even more of their land. This is going to be a very problematic time for the Native Americans. And then the last thing that we see, in order to try to make up for their wrongdoing, the United States is going to extend the protection of the U.S. laws over the Indians. Okay? They're going to say, hey, I know we're taking land away from you, but we're going to kind of try to make it up to you. We're going to protect you. It's more of an empty promise. It's like, if your parents promised you a puppy for Christmas and then you wake up Christmas morning and you rush down, super excited to get that puppy, and it's a rock with a smiley face, some flappy ears, and a tail attached to it. They promised you a puppy. They didn't say it had to be real or alive. So it's more of an empty promise. It's a broken promise. They're saying that they're going to protect them, but what they're really wanting is to gain profit or to help the white citizens. They're not, right now, they still don't care about Native Americans. So this is a very problematic time for the U.S. and for Native Americans. So what we're going to see is a couple years later, another law or another act is going to be passed, and it's going to be called the Curtis Act of 1898. And so the Curtis Act is going to go even a step further. They're going to say that, hey, all tribal courts, all Native Americans, that any wrongdoing happens, whether it's in the tribe or it's someone from outside the tribe, your courts aren't real. If you want to get a fair ruling, you have to go to a white court, to a judge that is white and by the United States. You can't go in and try to do this anymore. So your laws aren't in effect anymore. Your laws are pointless. And they're going to take it a step even further. They're going to say, hey, not only are your courts and laws pointless and invalid, but you are now going to be subject to federal law. Even though you aren't full citizens, even though we don't see you as citizens, we are still going to make you subject to our laws. You have to abide by our rules. You have to follow us. You have to do this and that. If you don't, there will be consequences. And so we're going to see that this is not a good time for Native Americans. And then lastly, the Organic Act. Oh man. Okay, so we're going to see that Congress is going to go even further. They're going to create the Organic Act because they want to civilize the last frontier, which is Indian Territory. Man, how heroic does that sound? Well, it's not that great for Native Americans. You probably guessed that. What's going to happen is that Congress is going to pass a law called the Oklahoma Organic Act, and it's going to legally divide Indian Territory into two sections. The reason why I put illegally in parentheses is because they're breaking a promise. They're going against their word, and they're creating another hole in these hearts of these Indians. They're taking from them, they're pushing them around, they're causing even more trouble than there was originally. So we're going to see that this is a very problematic time for them. What do you think is going to happen in the Organic Act? What do you think is going to be taken away from the Native Americans? I want you to comment on this video what you think is going to happen.